Big up and warm welcome back to SportSentric. Hopefully you can hear me, hopefully you can see me today. Big up everybody, welcome back to SportSentric. I'm your host, Billy2109. And it's been a while since my last video. I hope you can see me. All this divine intervention, maybe I'm just that good, maybe I'm just that blessed. Or maybe it's just one of those beautiful days here that people just can't sleep at night, it's so hot. But anyway, I hope you all have had a good summer so far. And this video really is more a reflection video. I've been tossing and turning all that, as you know. It's just autism in this heyday. And people need to understand what it is. Now, I'm going to take it from the top first and foremost. No fan has the divine high horse to tell people to get behind the team. What does that actually mean, get behind the team? Can someone please put any notification? What does it mean, get behind the team? Does get behind the team mean that you have to obliviously not see problems before they happen? Is that get behind the team? Is that so you're supposed to ignore everything you see, all the evidence you see, you're supposed to ignore it all and get behind a team? And who has the divine authority to tell you this? Unless you're a God, you cannot judge anyone. And people need to come down to high evidence. Because if you're saying to people, get behind the team, that means you must get behind the team. Whether the team plays good, bad, or indifferent, you yourself here, seeing that you had the authority to go and tell people to get behind the team, you yourself must stay behind the team. Mate, it's going to be one long summer for your ass. Don't go anywhere, you know. This is why I tell people, brother, don't push your thing or your agenda on somebody else. Unfortunately, yeah, we have too many people who get gassed at this point in the year. This is why I step back from most group chat, because you hear a lot of people talk a lot of shit, as if they know everything that goes on in the footballing world. They don't. They know as much as the next man down the road, the block down the road. All of it's opinion-based. Not one has proof or factual evidence of it happening. And let me recite Daniel Levy, because I think it needs to be said over again. Believe nothing you hear at Hotspur Way until you see it at the club. Once they've come through the door, then they are officially a Spurs player. But anything can happen between now and then. There are a lot of moving parts in the transfer window. And as for this Gakpo and Savinho has become the last 3 transfer windows regarding Tottenham. Savinho has been the main link since last year. They were talking January, but that was mostly after Spurs were looking at Semenyo, and Semenyo was the only option. So to revisit this year, it's Spurs getting fair play to him. Fair play to them for getting him over the line eventually. At least it's not like Damian where it dragged on and we didn't get it. And the same like Berahino where it dragged on for bare years and we didn't sign Sadio Berahino either. So fair play to Tottenham for going out and doing that. The Cody Gakpo one was so many moving parts it had to happen before Spurs could even potentially even get a chance of getting Cody Gakpo. But that's the food chain in its evident force. When you look at the food chain that created that scenario, it had to start with Man City basically signing Bawadi from Lille, then allowing Rodri to return back to Barcelona. Barcelona themselves having to let Torres, the World Cup hero, go to PSG, giving them the extra attacker they needed. And with Mika Götze replacing Yan Diomande. So for anyone out there, big teams pivot as well. PSG had to pivot from Yan Diomande to go get Mika Götze. But at least that showed that they had a contingency plan just in case they didn't get Yan Diomande. So for anyone out there saying it's difficult to pivot, no, it's not. You have multiple targets. Yeah, if one doesn't work out, then you've got another one to fall back on. And fair play to PSG for showing that. It's annoying in the first aspect of you not getting the player, a bit like Arsenal, Morgan Rodgers. It must have been infuriating at the beginning not to sign that player. But eventually, they got Bruno G, and they will sign players, Arsenal. I didn't believe the story of them signing Vinny Jr. because there's no way Vinny Jr. And it's not a slight on Arsenal, but if you're going from Real Madrid to Arsenal, it's a step down. I'm sorry it is. Because when you look at Real Madrid, they are the pinnacle of footballing excellence. Players go there to spend their best years at that football club because they know they're guaranteed to have trophies at the end of it or some level of success at the end of it. So they're pinnacle clubs, a bit like Barcelona. They're the pinnacle. If you get to them clubs, yeah, you don't want to be really leaving because you know they're going to get guaranteed success there in some way, shape, or form. And even if it's not instant, it will come at some later stage. So this is why I never thought Vinny Jr. was going to leave there, and I thought it was a contract player, and it worked out that way. So it's what it is in them way. I can't slam Arsenal. At least they attempted to try and get Vinny Jr. It just wasn't going to happen. But that's how I looked at it. But you can't blame a man for trying. But with Tottenham Hotspurs, it's become jarring year in, year out, which is what I said, why I left group chats, because it's nonsensical. There's no evidence to back up anything that people say. And it's how far can, like I said in the last video, I hope you enjoyed it, how far can I stick my tongue up Tottenham's backside? Rather than let me look at Tottenham subjectively and let me see some creative criticism, what you actually need. And another thing that people need to understand is sometimes, yeah, a kick in the backside is just as motivating as a hug. A kick in the backside actually inspires someone to say, you know what, maybe I need to fix up. Hitting rock bottom doesn't always mean that you are essentially a kick in the backside there can be inspiring because you want to prove that person wrong. And I think that's been lost in this world today. The ability to prove somebody wrong, the motivation in proving somebody wrong. Look at Liverpool in 2018, I would like to say, yeah, when they lost the Champions League final to Real Madrid, to and Karius and Bale. And then look at the following year. They used that loss, that pain of losing to Real Madrid the next year. And it inspired them the next year to go and win the competition and beat Spurs in the final. Now, there's a lot to be said of that. And that's inspiring because people get told they're not good enough. But you use this as a mechanism to prove that person wrong. You say, you know what? Screw you. You're not hearing it. You might think I'm down and out, but I'm not. I'm better than I am. And I think that's lost in today's society. Maybe it's the woke business. The same like people think that they're above other people. No one is above anyone else. Come get off your high horse, which is why I put this video in this beautiful thumbnail together. Come down off your high horse. You're not a better fan. It's not about who's the better fan, and get behind what? Something you don't believe in? Is that what it has to be a fan? To basically kiss people's backside rather than stand up for what you actually believe in as a person? Am I supposed to be automaton, a sheep? Bah. Then maybe I need to go and cast myself for Emmerdale Farm, one of them ones, them ones there. I am sick and tired of this self-promoting. And this is why I take this, like I said, I take a step back at this one. This sanctimonious bullcrap. Get behind it. What does that mean? Let Tottenham give me something to get behind and I'll get behind them. But until I see something on the pitch to get behind, get the hell out of here, man. And stay where you are as well, for anyone who says the pigeon. Here's where the naughtiness comes out. I didn't christen the man the pigeon. He was known as a pigeon in Brazil. He's known over there as the pigeon. He does the pigeon dance. So anyone says, oh, you called him that, it's getting jarring. I didn't call him that. I never christened him that. The Brazilian public christened him that. Oh God, I may be having his family coming over. If I had I need to get some Mr. Some of them broken wings, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, step back. It's a hurricane coming through. Anyway, if players are that fragile and they're watching it, and big up Rowley, and I'm sorry if I ruined your show last night, because I didn't mean to do that. And big up Queen Ellie. But if a player can't handle being called his nickname that he himself created and he himself plays up to, and he can't handle that, and is that mentally frail that he cannot handle that, then I don't want him at Tottenham Hotspurs in any way, shape, or form. Because that's the mentality, yeah. So that shows weak mentality. If I have to essentially kiss a player's backside for them to do their job, not say that he's poor in any way, shape, or form, but just keep blowing smoke up there. What incentive does that player have to prove me wrong? Or to prove anyone wrong? You might as well just sing his praises all day long. It's the same way, like, I want to go to the parade and support the team while we're in 17th place and a relegation level parade. Have a word. Who else in world football is throwing a parade for being 17th? Are we that sad as a fan base? And at the same time, yeah, we're throwing these parades. We're saying we want Enoch to change. Change what? What are they changing for? If you're sitting there making excuses for people like the Pigeon, why should Enoch buy any better? You're obviously happy with what you got. The stats. So when Enoch say the stats are in their favor, what's your next argument? Now here's where my footballing knowledge comes into play. I've watched the Pigeon multiple years at Watford and at Everton. He was never a £60 million player. Spurs got their pants pulled down and spanked up royally by Everton. And it's been coming to 5 years of having to watch this guy, and he's painful to watch. His ball control is absolutely shocking. If it's not an instant shot, right, it is basically like a back pass to the goalkeeper. That's how weak his shots are. His skill is rolling on the floor. Or they call it shithousery, which I call being a plain nuisance. He is a scorer of brilliant goals, like in the World Cup or against Burnley last season, but he has never been prolific in his career. In his career, his maximum season was 13 goals. Now, how many Spurs fans have you heard talk rubbish about Balogun? Yeah, Balogun last season scored 13 goals last season. In a one-off season, he scored 13 goals. The same as the Pigeon in his record-breaking season. The standard of the league is different, but the striker is still prolific. He showed that in the World Cup. If he has the opportunities, he will score the goals. So you imagine that, right? We have, if the Spurs treat it right properly, because I said they need 3 attackers in the summer. But then again, I haven't judged Spurs' window yet. Which is why I've left the autonomism open. I'm not displeased or angry. I expected Spurs to do this. One, it was a World Cup year. And where I do give Spurs praise is they closed the Van Heck deal before the World Cup, because that deal had the potential to explode, a bit like Safari to Bayern, which I said in the earlier video. That price could have exploded due to the World Cup performances. So it was good for Bayern Munich to tie him down and get that deal signed. And it was good for Spurs to get the Van Hecker deal signed, because that could have, like I said, exploded, seeing he's in the last year of his contract, playing for Beld and Netherlands star, and next to Van Dijk. That could have possibly risen to a lot higher than 50 million, which is why it's good to nail it down. Yes, he wanted Tottenham and it was done. Fair play to Spurs in that angle. They got Tonali, that's what they wanted. Newcastle, yeah, it's another story. I'm going to do a video on Newcastle real soon, because I'm worried about Newcastle. not just on the potential of they've lost the manager, but the way they're selling their players. I would question whether the owners are seriously invested in Newcastle or have just got tired of hitting a brick wall and want to pull out. Pause. But first and foremost, let's talk about this need to overinflate this window. Bruno Guimaraes, Bruno G, went to Arsenal for 75 million. Arguably, I would say he's a better midfielder than Tonali, to be fair. But that's just me. I would have had him over Tonali. But each to their own aspect, and I can understand deserving wanting Tonali to spearhead his midfield. Then we've got Bruno Fernandes to come in from West Ham. But Spurs have signed players from relegated teams before, in Maddison from Leicester. So you've taken advantage of teams' unfortunate demise. And the market has exploded. So I'm not really taking that as a statement of intent, not in the fact that we've bought Maddison for 40 million. Well, 30 million if you count. I believe it's Winks, 10 million or something like that. And then you add the fact that you've got inflation and market value because the market has exploded. 84 million, and you need him. Sometimes, like I say, it's a seller's market, and and the money is down to how much you players need, how much the club actually need that player. When I say lazy scouting is when you focus on one league. It kind of makes your pool of players you're looking for heavily limited in what you can actually bring in. And it's a lot of it's dependent on a domino effect. One falls down and the others come behind it, which is what I've been saying for months, by the way. And it's not in Spurs' hands. We needed a lot of things to play out, and they've played out the way that, like I said, I expected. I'm not going to say that I'm Mystic Meg or anyone else, but it's just the trail led there for a long, long time. But unfortunately, people get lost on their hopes and dreams. It's all good to have hopes and dreams. No one is telling you not to have hopes and dreams. That's your business. But some people lack factual evidence. A trailer they can see that you've worked something out. It's all good you saying, I would have did it, but if you've got no working out, you're talking shit. There has to be some level of working out, some level of ingenuity. No one is questioning your faith as a fact. They're just asking questions. Curiosity, opinions. And they have no basis on how the football club is run. And I'm surprised if the pigeon is watching, one of the 7 people watching the Barca Yid. No disrespect to my buddy Rowdy, but you know what I mean? No one, I doubt he's one of the 7 people watching that. So I don't think that Snowflake would be thinking, he called me a pigeon, so you know what I mean? Call me a river breakfast, you know what I'm saying? Life is very short. Say what you have to say. As long as you have an opinion, you've got some evidence to back it up. What does it matter what anyone says? Anyway, SportSentric out. Bless.